I'd like to introduce Beth Weaver. Beth is the president of an organization that Mike and I have been members of for a few years now. She is the most inspiring president because she's been a member since childhood. So this particular organization is called the Wildlife Conservation Trust. It spans land, about 3,000 acres in Surrey, Gilsum, and Alstead, New Hampshire. And it's a recreational club. It's a beautiful place. Beth is going to give some more detail on it. A few years ago, I thought Phil might enjoy it because I know he enjoys outdoor activities as much as we do. And Phil has now also become a member. And I know that there's a lot of people in our club who are of that ilk, who love to be outdoors, who love to take advantage of this. And so here's a little gem that's right in our backyard that a lot of people don't know about. So I'd love to turn this over to Beth to share a little bit more. And I think, Beth, you have a PowerPoint. So Marty, you may have to turn the control of the screen over to Beth.
It's already on, Anna.
Okay, thank you. Beth, you have to unmute. No, Marty's telling her. There you are.
All right, thank you, Anna. Nice to meet all of you and to see some of familiar faces as well. I have not done a PowerPoint presentation before. Somehow I leaped beyond that in my career, and I have not shared screen before. So if you can just, do I just press this green button that says share screen? Okay. Did I do that right? What happened? Oh God, we should have had a dry run on it.
No, somehow George Weir's screen is being shared, and I don't know why that is. It says you're viewing George Weir's screen, so I don't know if we need to undo George's.
George Weir.
You see up here, it says George Weir. He doesn't realize this. I think he doesn't realize it. George, can you hear us?
Just tell others screen sharing you want to continue, yes. I don't know what happened.
Well, I think it's that just before you had a chance to push that, somehow he did it. I don't think he realized he wasn't supposed to.
There,
there it is.
All right, thank you. And I know there's a way to get rid of my slides on the side. I did it earlier. Slideshow.
Slideshow down lower right.
Okay. All right, we'll just ignore them for now in the essence of time. I'm sorry. So I'm here to share with you a piece of land that is tucked right underneath your noses in the southwest corner of New Hampshire. We're an organization called the Wildlife Conservation Trust, but it really does not express who we are, so we really go by the tagline, enjoying and preserving nature. Here is a nice aerial view from a drone of our land looking south towards Surrey. And so you see one of our houses in the forefront here. And on the body of water on the ridge in the upper right corner is Caldwell Pond. Our mission, and has been for over 60 years, is to offer a broad range of outdoor activities and facilities. We have 3,000 acres of sustainably managed forests and ponds, and we are a membership non-for-profit organization. And just a little bit about how we're formed and really what this is about is there's two organizations involved here. The first is Timber Owners of New England, which goes by TONE, and they were conceived in the, I just read it, 1954 by a small group of Protestant businessmen. They did it as an investment, but they also did it as a way of preserving land. And you'll see later that they had a vision that over time land would become more rare as people built up So Tone is a nonprofit private corporation, and they own and manage the land through sustainable forestry and under a managed forest plan, and they manage the wildlife habitat improvements as well. WCT is the membership organization that leases the land and the facilities from Tone for our recreational purposes and overnight accommodations. And you can see here, this is Tone's sign, and we do timber cuts on a routine basis as needed and as based on market value. We just did one, what, 1 or 2 years ago, right around 100 acres, right around one of our ponds, Raymond Pond. So this is a picture of a truck with some of the timber cuts being removed. So we have 3 ponds for recreation. All of our ponds are ones you can swim, kayak, canoe, or just simply sit in a chair and watch the wildlife and the water, and the silence is amazing. We have a fly fishing pond, which is regularly fished by some people on this call, and is stocked with trout both in the spring and in the fall. We also have a bass fishing pond that is filled with both small and largemouth bass. And you have a picture here of some of our fishermen. This is a nice bass that was pulled out of Cranberry. Here's Anna doing some winter ice fishing. And here's Mike's daughter with a nice rainbow. This is a picture of one of our ponds. This is the one where we do our fly fishing. Great view from the drone. Over here on the left is one of our facilities. It's a camp, no running water, no electricity, but it's heated in the winter, and it's a great place for hanging out after ice fishing or sitting for cocktails. Here is our Caldwell Pond, and as you can see, it's awesome for social distancing. Kids love playing in the fresh water of Caldwell Pond. I myself was probably 5 when I started going, 6 maybe. We do have lots of nice wildlife. This jumped in front of me one day when I was looking at our loon family. I'll show you in a minute. We do have an eagle that lives with us, and this is our loon family. They return every year, and I don't know if you know, but loons mate for life. So, and the male is the first to come back to the pond, and then the female follows, and they stay through the season and raise their chicks. We also have rifle, pistol, and archery ranges. We also have hunting available, and this is 3,000 acres of private land for your hunting pleasure. And we also have an annual, biannual shooting day fun where we get together and do some trap shooting, lots of games, camaraderie, things like that. We have miles and miles of trails that are marked for hiking, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. The property once was all agriculturally managed, or in the 1850s, it was all agricultural land. So there's lots of cellar holes and old mica mines. So there's a lot of things to explore and to spend time doing. Here is a picture of some of our members hiking, and you can see the red blaze on the tree. So all our trails are blazed and maintained by our members. And here is a fascinating cellar hole. What makes this so fascinating is the center structure was probably the base for a chimney before stoves were brought in. Let's talk a little bit about our accommodations. We have hive houses. They range from 2 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms, so they sleep anywhere from 4 to 10 people. Fully equipped kitchens. All the houses have mudrooms, Wi-Fi, puzzles, games, and it's just a great place to gather with family and friends. People have used it as a business retreat, or just if you want to get away by yourself. You're in the middle of 3,000 acres and there's no one else around. We have screen porches for summer evenings and wood stoves for cozy winter nights. We also have a day room on the property for people that are visiting for the day, and it includes a bathroom with a shower and a table for gatherings. And Raymond Pond was the aerial view with the waterfront camp on it. All our accommodations are available on a reservation basis. And you must wonder how we do all this. Well, we have 2 on-site resident managers who do everything from the linens washing to the house cleaning to building bridges to building structures. The little retreat on Raymond Pond was built by our resident manager. This is the picture of one of our houses. It's a post and beam, and it's actually a 5-bedroom house. You would never know it, but all our houses are very simple because they're meant for people to gather. So we have a dining room table here. You can see a nice kitchen. All the houses have screened porches and sizable bedrooms. We also considered ourselves stewards of the land, and that's one of the things that I see us doing that fits with what you're doing, which is as a service to the community, we are protecting these 3,000 acres. Our founders started this for better sportsmanship, recreation, and the wiser use of New England's resources. And I love this line, so that there may be created abundance where scarcity exists. And this was their vision back in the mid-1950s. This is what guides us today. The Nature Conservancy came onto our property in May of 2006. At that point, we're kind of exploring how we wanted to proceed for the next few years. Do we want to donate our land? You know, what's here? So they noted many significant natural features and habitats, some of which they listed as exemplary. We have a 200-year-old hemlock forest, a very fascinating herbaceous seepage marsh, and those types of marshes are where the water comes up from the rocks, and herbaceous means non-woody plants. And we have many rare plants as well, like the trailing arborist. One of the other things that fascinated the Nature Conservancy and really put us on their radar is that Dart Brook runs north to south through our property, and it feeds into the Ashwillet, which eventually goes to the Connecticut. So it's a very significant piece of waterway that is protected from pollution, nature, life. The Nature Conservancy told us, or says, that at over 3,000 acres, the property is one of the few large blocks of contiguous, undeveloped land in the Monadnock region, and has been identified by the Nature Conservancy as one of exceptional habitat significance from a watershed perspective. So not only do we offer recreation and fun, but we also are stewards of this exceptional habitat. One of our latest projects was getting a LiDAR map of the property. So LiDAR is, I skipped a slide. LiDAR is a method for measuring distance by illuminating the target with laser light and measuring the reflection. It's used for oceanography, it's used for air, it's used for finding old civilizations, so it has many uses. And in our particular case, or in this case, the state of New Hampshire, it has been used to identify old cellar holes and stone walls, mica mines, things like that. So 150 years ago, this land was all pastures, agricultural fields, sheep, goat, and structures. And what you can see on this LiDAR map, the red circles are a very distinct square. Those are cellar holes. That blue circle, and I'll see if I can zoom in for you, the square blue circle is a paddock. So that was where someone might have had their sheep. So we have done a LiDAR mapping of our entire property, and I have combined it with historical maps from the 1850s and identified who lived where. And, you know, as a person, adult who's been on this property all her life, I've always known there was lots of cellar holes and been fascinated by them. My grandmother would say, well, Mrs. Pierce lived here and so lived here. And for me, this LiDAR project has just been fascinating because all of a sudden I can find more cellar holes that I didn't know existed.
Hey, Beth, can I ask a question?
Yep.
So inside of this blue circle, I see a very light square. Is that stone walls? And is this line down here below the black line, is that also stone walls?
The black line is actually a road.
Okay.
This is not our property. I couldn't get our map up in a feasible amount of time.
Okay.
But a stone wall is this long line you see going down the middle of the screen. And then it connects to one off on the right. So this is how people mark their boundaries of their properties, with stone walls.
But is that also the case for the blue, for what's inside of that blue marking you made? Is that a little square of stone walls?
Yes, that's a little square stone wall.
Okay.
And one of the fascinating things with these stone walls, as you can tell by the shape, what it used to be, but also stone walls along the property, sometimes there's obviously trees, and there you'll find old barbed wire growing in the trees, and that was obviously a cattle field or some type of animal, therefore the barbed wire. So a lot of times you can tell what was inside the field by the shape and what's around it. I've learned so much about reading the woods. So these are stone walls that you're seeing in here. See if there's anything else of interest here. Well,
And
that's
the red thing was a cellar hole?
the red one circle is a cellar hole.
Okay.
Nice and square, deep. See how it has depth to it, whereas the
Yeah.
paddock does not.
Yeah.
So the deeper something is, the darker it shows up. And that is true for this as well. And the other thing that I learned that was interesting, and I could talk forever about LiDAR. So that's really another subject for another day. But the agricultural fields were closer to the house, and the farm animal fields were further away. So I just learned that. This kind of is the end of our presentation, because if I get going on LiDAR, we're going to be here having dinner. So at this point, I would like to thank you very much for taking time to learn about this little special place, 3,000 acres of protected land in your backyard. And ask if you have any questions, and thank you for inviting me and all that kinds of good stuff to wrap something up.
Beth, can
Anybody
you
have any
stop sharing? Beth, stop sharing your screen.
Oh, thank you.
There we go. Looks like Tammy has a question. Tammy, you're muted.
I was wondering about what membership entails and how to become a member. And
So membership entails full use of all the land and the housing structures. Full use, I mean, the fish are stocked. All the ponds have canoes, kayaks, and rowboats. So one of the things that's nice is you can go there without really a specific plan. You can say, oh, let's go here. And then you get to the pond and go, oh, let's take a rowboat out. So it's not like you have to load something on your car and kind of have your day planned out. Membership is through an application, and it's voted on by the board, two-thirds of the members of the board, but it's a very, very simple process. You would be sponsored by, I'm sure, either Anna or Phil, and it's a very simple process. If you are interested, I would encourage you to contact me or Anna and Mike or Phil and come onto the property.
okay,
And see it.
that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I add a little something to that too?
I would love it if you and Phil would add things in, Mike.
Okay. So one of the things that's beautiful, that the houses that are there, there's 5 houses that are fully equipped. And if you're a member, being able to stay in one of those houses is incredibly inexpensive. So if you want a little escape, just not too far from home, you don't have to drive 3 hours. It's right here, and it's just a few dollars a night if you are already a member. And they don't rent the houses to non-members. So there's actually quite a lot of availability because there's not a ton of members. There's only right now, I think, 52 families that are members of this club. So if you want to stay, you want to come, you're hardly ever going to run into crowds and people. It's one of the nicest places I have ever been. And I've lived in this area for almost 30 years, and I only found out about it 6-7 years ago. So I just wanted to mention that about the houses. It's a tremendous value.
What is the cost of membership?
It's an annual dues of just over $2,000 a year. And, people look at me and they go, for $2,000 a year, and I spend that on a long weekend or a week's vacation. And this includes housing and all your recreational activities. So the fishing, and what did we probably stock 400 trout each year? I think 400 or more.
Yeah,
So,
closer to 500, I think.
okay, well, it's a good size number.
It is, yeah.
And it's really, if you are the least bit interested, I would encourage you to visit the property because it's something you can't really comprehend until you get your feet on the ground. And a lot of members live locally and use it just for the recreation. And another one of our members said that he always loved being outdoors, but never more so than now. So.
Well, and I'd love to, just offer an invitation to any of you who may be interested. I'd love to invite you to come as our guest for a day to just come and visit, see the property, take a hike. I'd be delighted to host any of you.
She'd also be glad to take you fishing if you're interested in fishing.
No, that would be him.
Likewise, I'd be more than happy to take anybody fishing that wants to go.
Yeah, Phil, I just want to drop a hint here that after work, there may be some fishing going on at Raymond Pond.
Good to know.
And if anybody's interested, I will be on the property next week for about a week, and I'd be glad to hook up with you.
Beth, there's a question from Tom Franks. Can non-members day hike?
No, it's all private land, and yeah, and we're proud of it. And it's one of the reasons that we've never partnered with the Conservancy or conservation organization, because they we'd have to have it available to the public. And we've been very successful with managing it privately and through our forestry and sustainable forestry. So there's a lot of reasons why non-members can't. One's a liability. So
With a member, they could.
yes, absolutely. Anybody can come on the property with a member. Absolutely. And if you're interested, you've got a room full of people that'd be glad to take you. And the way the organization is set up, with Tone being the property owner and a privately held corporation with shareholders, it would be very challenging for any one person or any group of people to decide to sell the property by the way it's all set up. So our goal is in perpetuity.
Mara has a brag.
Well, seeing Anna, the ice fisherman, out on the property, I can now brag $10 for the shows that we're going to open up on October 24th. One of them is a show we're hosting from the Vermont Folklife Center, which is on ice fishing, big across the state, and an incredible photographer who's taken pictures in all kinds of light of the fish little houses on the ice fishing ponds, including one whole section on the retreat meadows, which you all know very well. But it's an oral history project and a photography project. And I've also located an artist down in Northampton who for 20 years has been taking pictures of the ice fishing holes, so the augured holes that you saw in the picture with Anna. And he trains a camera on them, and overnight a thin layer of ice forms, and he's taken pictures of these rondels that are sort of mysterious and cosmic all at the same time. But it reminds me of Snowflake Bentley, because not one photograph in 20 years has shown the same pattern in the hole. So there's an art show about ice holes, and there's an oral history and photography show about ice fishing. So there's my $10.
That's awesome. Mara, I'd love to add something to that. I think a lot of people, when they think of ice fishing, imagine that movie Grumpy Old Men. Do you remember that? Where, they sit in their little hut and they're just miserable and drink beer. Well, that's not what we do. We've turned ice fishing into an art form and a party. So we have, tables out there with an amazing spread of food. Of course, we're kind of like fair weather ice fishermen. We go out when the weather's spectacular and not windy, but it's a lot of fun. We have all kinds of fun out there.
I also, we have a website if you're interested in seeing more of the property and learning a little bit more. It's www.tone-wct.org, and it'll pop up as a web link. So if that's what you see, that's what it is. And you can always email me at president@tone-wct.org.
Nice. Any other questions for Beth? Okay.
Thank you all very, very much for your time today.
Thank you, Beth, for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
I love this program.
Well done with a slideshow too.
Oh, thank you.
Well done.
So if there are no other announcements or anything for the good of the order, I will close the meeting on the short form with a ring of the bell. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.